Let's get to the point. Everything you think you know about love is a lie. It's not romantic. It's not eternal. It's not unconditional. You've been sold the idea that love is a choice, that loving someone is an act of will, a noble sacrifice, a promise that transcends time and circumstances. But here's the truth no one wants to accept. Love is not a mystery, nor is it an inexplicable magic. Love is a necessity, a biological and psychological response to what strengthens you, what keeps you alive, what makes you feel complete. And if this makes you uncomfortable, it's because you've been trapped in the illusion that true love is pure, selfless, incorruptible. But Spinoza, the 17th century philosopher, saw it clearly. We don't love by choice, but by necessity. We love what benefits us, what feeds us, what gives us energy. Love is not a magical force that appears from nowhere, but an unconscious calculation for survival. Think about it. How many times have you loved someone who didn't give you anything? How many times have you felt love for someone who only drained your energy, who emotionally wore you out, who sank you into the void? Exactly. Never. And now that you think about it, you realize it has always been this way. But you still cling to the idea that true love is unconditional, that if you really love someone, you will do so regardless of what they give or take from you. But that's a comfortable lie we tell ourselves to justify dependence, to disguise the fear of loneliness. The truth is, when someone stops giving us what we need, love fades away, not suddenly, but slowly, like a flame that burns out. And in that process, we resist, we lie to ourselves, we hold on to memories that no longer mean anything. But love is not nostalgia, nor suffering, nor sacrifice. Love is a necessity, it is a response, it is a reflection of what drives us to keep going. Spinoza understood this better than anyone. He destroyed the fantasy of eternal love and replaced it with a more brutal, but also more real vision. According to him, love is a manifestation of our desire to live, to grow, to expand. We don't love because we want to. We love because we need to. And that completely changes the way we experience it. Because if love is a necessity, then love is not free. We can't decide to love or stop loving. We can only love what strengthens us. And when something stops doing so, love dies, no matter how hard we try to revive it. And here comes the hardest part. No one loves you unconditionally. No one. Not your partner, not your friends, not your family. Every love has a reason, a purpose, a function. And the moment you stop fulfilling that function, love weakens. It's not cruelty, it's nature. We love because we need each other, because in the other person we find something that makes us feel more complete, more secure, more alive. But if that need disappears, love becomes a dead weight, a burden we carry out of fear of emptiness. And do you know what's most ironic? The more we cling to the idea of unconditional love, the more we suffer when we realize it doesn't exist. And this is where Spinoza gives us an out. Because if we understand love as a necessity and not as an act of will, we can free ourselves from the unrealistic expectations that destroy us. We can accept that love is not eternal, that it is not a promise carved in stone, that it is not a never-ending sacrifice. Real love is not a prison, but a process. It is a constant exchange of energy, of understanding, of growth. It's not about looking for someone who will love you no matter what, but about finding someone with whom you can share a purpose, a direction, a reason to keep moving forward. And here's the question you must ask yourself. Who do you really love? Who do you need? Because if love is necessity, then maybe what you feel for some people isn't love, but habit, fear, dependence. And that's the most uncomfortable truth of all. Maybe what you call love is nothing more than an addiction to security, to stability, to the idea of not being alone. And if that's the case, then you don't love, you just cling. And Spinoza would tell you that this isn't love, it's weakness. True love is not suffering for someone who gives you nothing. It's not sacrificing yourself for someone who leaves you empty. True love is understanding, knowing, growing together. It's a two-way street, not a one-sided sacrifice. And here's the key. Real love doesn't come from fantasy, but from accepting reality. It's not a fairy tale. It's a tacit contract between two people who choose each other because they benefit from each other, because they understand each other, empower each other, lift each other up. And the day they stop doing so, love will disappear, and that's okay. Because love is not eternal. It's a reflection of life itself. It is born, it grows, and sometimes it dies. So stop chasing impossible loves. Stop expecting someone to love you for no reason. Stop clinging to relationships that no longer strengthen you. Love, like everything in nature, has a purpose. If you lose it, love fades away. And that's not sad. It's simply the truth. The only thing you can do is accept this reality and build relationships based on understanding, reason, and mutual knowledge. Because true love is not idealizing. It's seeing the other for who they truly are, without illusions, without lies, without false promises. Spinoza didn't want to destroy love. He wanted to liberate it. He wanted us to see it for what it is, a natural force, not a fantasy. Because only when we stop idealizing it can we truly experience it in its purest form. A conscious love, a love free from illusions, a love based on reality. And now tell me, do you still believe in unconditional love? Or have you understood what Spinoza was trying to tell us? Then, if love is not an act of will, if it is not that unbreakable promise we've been sold in movies and songs, what does it really mean to love? And what's even more important, what does it mean to be loved? Here's where we enter unknown territory, a space where most prefer not to look. Because accepting that love is a necessity and not a choice forces us to face something painful. We are not loved for who we are, but for what we represent to the other person. I know you don't want to hear it, but think about it. They don't love you because you're special. They don't love you because you're unique. They love you because in you, they find something that feeds them, that nourishes them emotionally, psychologically, or even physically. This is where the question few dare to ask arises. What will happen when you stop providing what you currently give? Will you still be loved? Spinoza made it clear. Love, like any other human emotion, is a consequence of interaction with the world. It's not an eternal commitment, it's a result. A result of what we offer, of what we project, of what we make others feel. And here's where you start seeing reality with new eyes. Because if love is a necessity, that means it is always conditional. There's no such thing as unconditional love, because love only stays alive while there's a reason for it to exist. If the person you love stops providing what you need, love wilts. It becomes a memory, a ghost that slowly loses its strength. And there's nothing you can do to stop it. Look around you. Think about the relationships you've had, the people who've been important in your life. Some are no longer here, right? Have you asked yourself why? Maybe you swore you'd love them forever. Maybe you thought you'd never move away from them. But something changed. Something in you, something in them, something in the connection that once bound you. And when the need ceased to exist, love disappeared. Not because of lack of effort, not because of lack of commitment, but because life is like that. Dynamic, changing, unpredictable. And here's where the greatest mistake people make comes in. They confuse permanence with love. They think if something lasts, then it's real. But duration is not a measure of love, it's a measure of utility. If a relationship lasts, it's not because love is stronger, it's because the need is still there. But the moment that need fades, the relationship breaks. No matter how many promises were made, no matter how many times eternal love was sworn. This sounds cold, even brutal, but it's liberating. Because it means you don't have to fight to be loved. You don't have to beg for someone's attention. You don't have to force something that no longer works. You just have to understand that love is like everything in nature. It follows laws, rules, principles that don't depend on you or your will. And one of those rules is that no one will love you beyond what you can offer to their life. Now, this doesn't mean love is selfish in the negative sense of the word. It means it is functional. It follows a logic. When someone loves you, they do it because there's something in you that fills them, that inspires them, that makes them feel something they need. And the same goes the other way around. You don't love people just for love, but because in them you find something that complements you. And so, what is it that we really seek when we seek love? We don't seek a person, we seek an experience. We seek to feel alive, to feel validated, to feel important. We seek, deep down, a reason to exist. Because Spinoza said it clearly, the essence of the human being is the desire to persevere in one's own existence, and love, in its purest form, is one of the ways that desire manifests. And here comes the most important question of all. If love is necessity, if it's not a free act, how can we love consciously? Because it's not about renouncing love, nor about seeing it as a simple transaction. It's about understanding it in its true form, seeing it without embellishments, without illusions, without false hopes. When you understand that love is not eternal, that it is not unconditional, that it is not blind sacrifice, you can begin to live it more authentically. Not from dependence, but from understanding. Not from fear of losing, but from gratitude for what it is while it lasts. Because here's the great irony. The more you try to cling to love, the faster it slips away. The more you obsess over the idea that it must last forever, the more you suffocate it. Love is like fire. It needs space to breathe. It needs movement. It needs change. And so, we return to the initial question. What does it really mean to love? To love is to know. To know yourself, to know the other, to know the nature of the relationship that binds you. Love is not about closing your eyes and hoping everything will turn out okay. It's about opening them wide and seeing reality clearly. Because when you understand what love is in its essence, you stop demanding things from it that it can't give. You stop expecting someone to love you for no reason. You stop believing love is an inevitable destiny. And you begin to live it more fully, more freely, more real. And here is where the great deception ends. Love is not magic. It's not a whim of destiny. It's not a supernatural force that binds people for no reason. Love is a consequence, a reflection, a natural response to our deepest needs. And the real question is not whether someone loves you. The real question is, what are you offering to be loved? Because when you understand this, you stop asking why love leaves, and you start asking what you really need. And in that answer, perhaps, you'll find something much more valuable than love itself. The knowledge of yourself. And now comes the part you don't want to hear. If love is a necessity, if it's not eternal, if it's not a free choice, then what does it mean to lose love? What happens when someone stops needing you? This is where most people break. where people enter a crisis, where the pain becomes unbearable. Because we've been taught that losing love is failing. We've been told that if someone leaves, it's because we did something wrong. But that's not true. If love is not a choice, then neither is its end. Love fades when it no longer fulfills its function. And this is not a punishment, not a mistake, not a tragedy. It's nature in action. The problem is that we don't want to accept it. We cling to dead relationships, to feelings that no longer exist, to promises that only have value in the past. We refuse to see the reality because accepting it hurts too much. We prefer the lie of forever to the truth of while it makes sense. But here's the secret. Love is not meant to be eternal. It's meant to be lived. And if a relationship ends, if someone stops loving you, it doesn't mean it wasn't real. It means it served its purpose. It had its moment. It existed with all the intensity it was meant to. And now, it's transformed into something else. Because everything you live, everything you feel, leaves a mark. It doesn't matter if it lasted years or months, if it was perfect or disastrous. None of that is erased. Every person you loved changed you. Every love you lived left something in you. It built you, it shaped you. You weren't the same after loving. And that's what matters. So, if love is based on necessity, what can you do to love better? Here's the key. Instead of seeking love, instead of obsessing over being loved, become someone who contributes, someone who nourishes, someone who has something real to offer. Don't ask for love. Don't demand it. Don't beg for it. Make yourself necessary. Because when you understand that love is a natural response to what you give, you stop worrying about whether someone will love you. You start focusing on what you build, on what you create, on what you give to the world. And when you live like this, love comes naturally, not because you seek it, but because you are a source of life, of energy, of purpose. And here's the final question. Who are you waiting for to love you? Why are you waiting to be chosen when you could choose yourself? Think about this. People don't love what needs love. They love what radiates something that attracts them, that strengthens them. If you live desperate for love, you only project scarcity. But if you live with purpose, if you build, if you grow, love is inevitable. So stop waiting. Stop begging. Stop clinging to what no longer makes sense. It's not about finding someone who loves you unconditionally. It's about becoming someone so whole, so authentic, so real, that when someone loves you, they do it because in you, they find something that transforms them. Love is not what you thought. It's not magic. It's not destiny. It's not a senseless sacrifice. It's logic. It's nature. It's life. And now tell me, do you still think love is an act of will, or have you understood that it's a reflection of who you are? Leave me your answer in the comments. And if you've made it this far, comment. Love is necessity, so I know you are one of those who have seen the truth to the end. Subscribe if you want more content that dismantles the lies we've been told about life. And remember, love is not eternal, but what you do with it can change you forever.